Today's guest has an enormous amount of positive energy, and he is also known as the positive psychologist. So, of course, his energy is what we need because many people who are watching and listening are dealing with extreme stress, especially when they have, here he is, their own personal terrorist. So I make us feel a lot more hopeful. I think many people in this situation can assume that this is a life sentence. Their ex is still years after they've separated, still deeply in their head and making them feel like their life is still being controlled. And so, Max, I am thrilled that you have come on and are going to help us realize what you just said earlier, that there's even more potential. Can you actually say what you just told me? Because I was like,
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me, Lisa. I'm really excited. So what I was just sharing before is this idea that actually the further down you are, the more you're struggling, the more potential is there to build upon that. So many times we think that, the further down we are, the more difficult it's going to be. But actually what that really means is that you're only one tool or one idea or one new life philosophy away from a dramatically different and better life. And so the way I look at, for example, the quality of life is really looking at a scale from -10, the deepest depression, towards +10, the enlightened spirit of the Buddha, or the greatest happiness and bliss you've ever felt. Well, if you're at a -7 right now, and you're really struggling, that means there's a lot more upside actually available to you if you really devote yourself to mastering your mind and mastering your body. And so that's why I'm really excited to be here today.
yeah, I love that. Like, I love how you flipped the more miserable you are, the more potential you have, rather than it's going to be harder. It's that it actually might be easier depending how bad things are. So why is mastering the nervous system more important than just changing your mindset?
Yeah, this is such an important point because we live in a culture obsessed with the mind.
Right.
All day long, we're planning, strategizing, worrying, doubting, fearing, setting goals, thinking about the past or the future without ever truly arriving in the here and now. But think back to maybe, that past partner when you were truly in love, or think back to a great, date from your life. And imagine that, at the end of the date, you had the greatest time of your life. It's the most fun-filled, loving, beautiful experience. And after that, your partner of your dreams, that man or woman, finally, they lean in and they're running their hands through your hair. And as they're leaning in for that kiss, and their perfect, honey sweet lips are touching yours in what should be a moment of pure perfection, all you can think about is, oh my God, did I brush my teeth? Oh my God, this is really gonna last. Is it gonna end again in such devastating pain as my last relationship?
Mm-hmm.
That's the tyranny of living in the head. We overthink and we underfeel. And when we do that, we miss out on the greatest moments and experiences of our lives. Because true happiness and aliveness is felt in the body. I don't go for that great kiss, or I don't watch a beautiful sunset, or I don't eat my favorite ice cream and then logically think, wow, that was really good. And there's a plus point here and a minus point there. No, I'm like, wow, this explosion of flavors in my mouth as I'm tasting my favorite ice cream, or the sunlight kissing my hands and the vibration I feel in my fingers. That is what true aliveness is all about. And so we cannot detach our thinking mind from our nervous system because they're two parts of the same coin.
Yeah. I think that's especially important because a lot of people who will be listening to this are dealing with extraordinary levels of hypervigilance, feeling like I got to keep an eye on everything. I can't be safe. I can't experience something because I have to protect myself from being hurt or being swindled or something like that. But before we continue, because I know we're just like go off on our topic without even introducing you, Max, can you officially introduce yourself and tell people who you are and a little about your background?
Absolutely. I'm Max Weigand, a positive psychologist from Germany, as well as the creator of a book and a method called Psychosomatic Intelligence that is all about really the art and the science of mastering both the mind and the body and really bringing them in alignment. One of the great challenges that I struggled with growing up and I find now and really help my clients with is exactly this inner dissonance, where the mind and the body are constantly at war. And there's just constant inner friction inside of you, where you know what you want. You know you want greater happiness or success or health or more peace of mind. And yet something inside of you keeps resisting that. And so what I really help people do is I help them alleviate and eliminate this inner friction and resistance so that all parts of them can suddenly move into the same direction instead of constantly fighting themselves.
Yeah, that is exactly what we need, I think. So speaking of that, with emotional regulation, which is like calming ourselves down, how does that affect decision making? Because I know that many of our people are in heightened levels of, that hypervigilance. And I think that you can't really think straight when you are like that. But tell us more because you're the expert.
That is absolutely right. So what we have to understand is that the brain's number one job is not to make us happy or healthy or successful. The brain's number one job is to keep us alive in a dangerous world in which we today no longer live, at least most of us. And so the brain is fundamentally designed to be hypervigilant, to err on the side of caution, to see problems and challenges and difficulties at every possible corner, because that's throughout history what has kept us alive. And so when we experience negative emotions, whether it's anxiety or fear or guilt or shame or anger or frustration, all of these emotions are designed to lead to specific actions, right? Biology and evolution has wired into us pleasure and pain, not just to make us happy or sad, but rather to drive our actions.
Mm-hmm.
Anger, for example, makes me want to fight. Fear makes me want to run. Guilt and shame make me want to hide from others and change my behavior in the future. Every single negative emotion has a direct action attached to it. And what they do is they essentially shut down the prefrontal cortex, the center for logic and reasoning, right here at the top base of your brain, the part of you that can act lovingly, with courage or compassion. And as that part of the brain goes offline and the amygdala, the fear and survival system, kicks in and hits the alarm bell, all you can think about is in these really evolutionary shortcuts of let me go and attack. And that might be with a fist, or maybe with words, or maybe with actions. But either way, when we're stuck in negative energy states, we tend not to really act in ways that actually align with our long-term goals.
Mm-hmm.
And so one way I like to look at it is if you've ever watched these horse races, what they do is they put these blinders on these horses. So the horse cannot see the other competitors. It cannot see the people watching on the stands. It can only see the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm angry or frustrated or depressed, that's what's happening with my brain. All I can think about is that one step rather than the million possibilities that are really available. And so if
Yeah.
we look at the opposite, what happens when we experience joy and love or peace of mind is the blinders come off. And all of a sudden, my brain can actually notice the millions of possibilities that I do have to act or talk or connect in smarter, more loving, more peaceful ways.
Yeah, as you're talking, I'm thinking because our people are dealing with a lot of issues regarding family court. They're often bullied when they're on the stand. They're getting terrible communication from their ex, and they're so scared that they can't make smart decisions because they're very reactive.
Yes. And part of the problem is that our brain fundamentally cannot tell the difference between our physical reality happening right now in front of us and our vivid imagination.
Hmm.
And so, why do we get scared when we're watching that scary movie with the zombies chasing after you, right? Why
Mm-hmm.
does the heart beat faster? Why do I get goosebumps? Why do I start to sweat or scream maybe out loud? It's because the brain cannot tell the difference. And so this is in many ways it's a useful feature, but it's also a dangerous feature of the brain. Because what that means is that purely by using my imagination or my memory, I can activate those same traumatic or painful conversations or experiences from the past. and I can project them into the present moment. I can sit here calmly at dinner, watching a beautiful sunrise, maybe talking to my kids, having a perfect meal, and I can still feel that anxiety inside my chest because my mind doesn't stop bringing the past pain into the present moment.
What you're describing, I'm thinking of the perfect example is when we still have to communicate with our
Mm.
abusive ex and we get a notification that there's a message. That ding causes people to completely panic. And so what you're saying fits perfectly is that even though there's no physical danger, the brain is still making me feel like I'm going to be killed.
Absolutely. And I think that the first key we have to understand here is that's the brain's job. The
Mm-hmm.
brain's job is to keep you alive at all costs. And anything that could potentially be painful or scary or hurtful is immediately understood and interpreted as a danger and
Mm-hmm.
activates the exact same neurochemistry, the adrenaline and cortisol spikes that make us feel so anxious and activates at the same time the same nervous system response, that sympathetic overdrive where there's this tension, this anxiety in my body, where I kind of breathe deeply anymore, where my
Mm-hmm.
shoulders are kind of clenched together, right? Where I'm protecting myself and making myself small. And as I do that, I actually strengthen the very response that I'm trying to run away from. I actually
Mm-hmm.
strengthen that fear response as I put myself into the state of mind and body over and over again. And the trouble is that then as we repeat that, what gets repeated gets strengthened inside the brain. And so every time that I view that notification on my phone, every time that I think back to that painful memory, that actually activates and strengthens the neural pathways inside my brain associated with that event or with that person. And so that's why over time, then, even if we're living on a different continent than that ex
Mm-hmm.
partner, I can still experience the exact same emotion of fear or
Yeah.
anxiety or stress every single morning as I wake up.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us about this psychosomatic intelligence that you've coined. What is that?
Absolutely. So psychosomatic intelligence is really about your ability to bring into alignment the three systems driving our life experience. That is, on one hand, the conscious mind, part of you that sets goals and plans strategies to achieve them. Secondly, and that's the second part of the psychological aspect of it, the subconscious mind, where our identity and our beliefs are housed about I am this kind of person. Now maybe I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I deserve love, or maybe I don't deserve any of this, right? Maybe all men are evil, or all women are evil. Well, those beliefs are going to have fundamental impacts upon your ability to truly connect with someone. And so that's the psychological aspect. And then we have the somatic aspect, which is really about building a vibrant connection again with our body. Because as I shared before, without a true connection in our most beautiful moments, if I don't feel the beautiful kiss or that perfect sunrise inside my body as sensations, then I'm missing out on the beauty of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so psychosomatic intelligence is really our innate ability to align these three systems so they're moving in one direction, so that I set a goal and my beliefs and my nervous system states actually support that goal and bring me closer to it rather than constantly hijacking and sabotaging me into this inner friction.
Okay, so let's like break it down to things that people can actually do. I mean, it sounds wonderful, but I'm like, where do we even start?
Absolutely. The first thing is really awareness. What we want to understand is our current patterns that are keeping us stuck. All of us have what I call an emotional home. It's just like our physical home. It's the place that we come back to over and over again. And so if you think about the three most common emotions of your life, good or bad, it might be a mix of joy and then guilt and anger, for example. Well, those emotions right now determine the quality of your life. And they're not actually based on external things. They're based on how you've interpreted those things in the past and then kept them and kept really activating them into the present moment. And so once I understand my baseline is frustration, well, what kind of thoughts am I thinking that keep me in a frustrated state? Well, I'm thinking this about my ex, and I'm really angry about this, and I'm really angry about that, right? And I wake up, and the first thing I can think about is, I just want to, like do this to him, right?
Mhm.
Whatever it is. Well, those kind of thoughts are the very cause of my suffering and frustration. And so that's the mental game. And then the physical game is, well, what's happening inside my body as I'm experiencing this frustration? Well, I'll probably notice the tension on in my face, my fingers, my chest, my jaw, and my neck. And all of those are not just symptoms, but they're actually co-activators. Meaning, as I tense up physically, that's the body sends a feedback loop to my brain saying, well, I'm really tense right now. That means I must be really angry.
It's
And
like a
many times,
self-fulfilling prophecy.
exactly, exactly. And many times what happens is we actually take those physical sensations that we feel and we project them upon the other person. So wake up and I haven't really had a good night of sleep. I'm really tired. I'm feeling kind of anxious. And now I have this conversation. And usually it would have been just a normal, neutral conversation. But because my body is already hijacked in this state of survival, I now project with my mind everything the other person says in a negative way. I project
Mhm.
those negative feelings upon that person. And now I think I'm really angry because of this person. When
Mhm.
in fact, it had nothing to do with that person and everything to do with me. And I believe that much of our miscommunication in relationships, much of the troubles, much of the arguments and discussions that occur are actually the result of people not knowing how to get in touch with their own feelings and
Mm.
instead projecting them upon the other person. So that if I had a really tough week, I'm more likely to explode upon the other person, even when they had nothing to do with my tough week.
Yeah, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about this term that a friend of mine, an attorney named David Morneau, used called people are living in the victimhood, that
Mm.
they feel like they've been wronged and there's no way to get out of it because family court's been terrible, my ex has been terrible, I got a really bad deal. How do you deal with someone who's had some bad things happen but cannot move past that the world is corrupt and biased and I'm going to just be miserable because I feel helpless?
Well, what we have to understand is that at every moment of our life, there's millions of bits of data coming in through our senses. Our eyes, our ears, our mouth, our, touch into our brain, where they're being filtered either into conscious awareness if they're important, or if the part of our brain called the reticular activating system that sits right here at the base of our brain says, this is not important, it kind of acts like a bouncer at a
Hmm.
nightclub and it just says, nope, not important. And so if we're consciously aware of everything happening inside of us at the same time, our brains would metaphorically at least explode. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why our brain has created a filter. Now, this filter is not based on reality. This filter is based on what our brain thinks is important. And so when you have trained your brain to focus on your fears or to focus on your frustrations, and you wake up and then immediately a filter goes to what's wrong.
Mm.
What did this person do again? How am I a victim again? Going back to what you just said. Well, your brain is going to filter all of your life experiences, every conversation, every article that you read, every message that you receive through that filter. And it's going to bring into your conscious awareness only those things that say, I'm a loser, or I'm a victim, or I'm unlovable, or this person is the devil, or whatever that specific filter is. And so the key then is analyzing the filter that we currently have and transforming that for a more effective reality filter. One great tool to actually do that is to wake up every day and ask yourself, what's going right? What am I grateful for? What am I excited about? What is going good about this? What do I like and respect about this person? As much as I may be angry about them right now, what do I like and respect about them? And just choosing deliberately and intentionally to create this new reality filter is going to bring to your conscious awareness completely different experiences, completely different insights, and completely different emotions than you would have with that old reality filter.
Yeah, it's a simple thing to do in theory, but it requires something very difficult, which is pausing.
Yeah.
pausing when you get up in the morning instead of just grabbing your phone and being like, let me just doom scroll or check that awful
Mhm.
email message, which is going to affect your whole day, maybe, is to think about what's going right. I love that. And I think people need to remember to pause and think there's so many things that are going right. So, Max, you made me think of something that we often recommend to our clients dealing with extreme stress. And that is, what can you do that is fun for 10
Mhm.
minutes? What can you
Yeah.
do? And because many of them feel like there's nothing fun. I'm busy documenting. I have to spend the whole weekend getting ready for my case. And it's like, but we need to start balancing those stress hormones out with something pleasurable. We need the
Yeah.
pleasure hormone. So if we can find something that's fun, that is something that you're doing where you're connected with other people. So not relaxing like taking a shower or like a massage, but something where you're connected with other people and there's uninterrupted flow. So there's no distractions. That could really help change. Do you feel like that could also help change a person's mindset?
Oh, 100%. All of my life philosophy really is built upon this idea of former US President Abraham Lincoln, who said, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first four sharpening the axe.
Right,
And
right.
so most of us, we try to chop down life's trees and challenges with a dull axe. And so
Mm,
saying, I'm too busy to meditate, or I'm too busy to sit down and pause and spend some time with friends, or I'm too busy to do what makes me happy is like saying, I'm riding this bike with a broken tire, but instead of fixing it, I'm just going to try to pedal a little more, right?
great
I'm
metaphor.
hitting the tree with a dull axe, but instead of stopping and sharpening it, I'm just going to keep grinding because that's what I've learned to do throughout my life. And I think many times it is actually much more effective to pause and slow down and really connect with myself, to cultivate a state again of love or joy or gratitude or peace. Because in those states of being, the brain becomes more effective. A happy brain is a more loving brain. A happy brain is a more effective brain. A happy brain is a more productive, motivated, effective, useful brain than an unhappy brain. And so our primary job as we wake up in the morning is to take care of our brain, just like an athlete takes care of their body, so that when the time comes to perform and you're there in court or you're there in a difficult conversation, you're actually at your best rather than having drained yourself all day and then coming in already feeling exhausted.
This is such perfect advice for people, like especially in this situation. I have kept journals since I was probably 12 years old, so many decades. Yeah, and I used to write at night before I went to bed, but I always fall asleep and I forget and make excuses. A friend of mine recently said what she started doing, and now I've started doing it too, is first thing in the morning, take out the journal and spend 5 to 10 minutes writing because it will affect the rest of the day. And I feel like it's been really helpful. So before I force myself, do not look at the phone, don't do anything, get the journal out, sit on the edge of the bed and just write, because often, especially coming out of that sleep state, there's things to think about. And I'll write for those few minutes and I'll be like, oh, I'm talking about yesterday, usually because I just woke up, and I'm remembering some of the good things or things that I need to think about. Do you ever tell your clients to journal?
Absolutely. And what you're touching upon here is actually one of the most powerful tools we can use to literally rewire our brain. There's a special moment that happens twice a day. Once as we fall asleep at night, and another time as we wake up in the morning, when the brain actually transitions from waking consciousness, dominated by alpha and beta brainwaves, this kind of active, very anxious, many times brainwave states, to the calm delta and theta brainwaves of deep sleep. And so it's exactly in this transition as I go to sleep at night and as I wake up in the morning that the brain kind of jumps through this subconscious barrier and opens up the brain's neuroplasticity, meaning the brain's ability to adapt itself to new stimuli. In other words, the brain becomes more adaptable, it becomes more open to change in exactly use those 2 times of the day. And so there's very few more powerful things than sitting down early in the morning as you wake up. And whether then you use journaling or visualization or affirmations, those tools, it doesn't really matter which tool you use, I believe, as much as the fact that you deliberately focus your mind on what you want rather than what you don't want. Because if you would like, we can play a little game here to show why
Yeah.
this is important.
And then
Okay,
remind me, I
fantastic.
want to ask you a question about that. Or before the game, because I don't want to forget. What if someone is just like, I love having hot tea in the morning. So I'm going to get up. I'm not going to journal, but I'm going to sit and smell and taste my beautiful hot tea for 5 minutes. Does that have a similar good effect?
Absolutely. Every activity that brings you into the present moment, that
Mm-hmm.
either allows you to truly connect with your body and the presence, or that allows you to go into the future and create a positive future or a
Mm-hmm.
positive past rather than a negative one, can be deep meditation. In fact, meditation, the way I look at it, is not just the practice of sitting down and closing your eyes. It's every kind of practice that allows you to be more connected with yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you want to smell the tea and maybe reminisce and 3 beautiful experiences from the last week, that's fantastic. Writing is a powerful tool that allows us to more deeply activate the brain, but it's absolutely not necessary. Whether we're using, writing or meditation or visualization or affirmations, what matters really is exactly the positive focus.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't mind, if you close your eyes, and for our listeners, if you're not
Yeah, I want to play
operating any
the game.
machinery or anything, obviously, if
All
you're in
right.
that spot, if you close your eyes for a moment, and now please do not, and I repeat, do not imagine a golden crocodile crawling out. And I can see on your face, it's already game over, right? And yet, how many times do we do that? How many times do we say, I don't want to be anxious anymore? I don't want to be so frustrated anymore. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to make that same mistake again. What all of these things do is they activate exactly the neural circuitry of the things that actually don't want. Because the brain does not understand the word or the command do not.
Right.
All it sees is misery or frustration or anger.
Well, it
And
says
so
do it because you just said it.
I said,
So
do
that's
not,
all our
sorry.
attention.
And so what we want to do instead is, if now you close your eyes again, and this time, please do imagine a pink fluffy unicorn. It's the most beautiful fluffy unicorn you can ever imagine. And it's flying across around your house, and it lands in your yard, and you jump on it. And now you're flying into the sky with this beautiful pink fluffy unicorn. And now you're still thinking about that old, golden crocodile?
Nope. I feel
No,
like I'm
right?
in a Katy Perry music video.
That's exactly it. And so rather than fighting the old and saying, I don't want this and I don't want that, what we want to do is we want to focus on the Katy Perry, dreamy, perfect, fluffy unicorns of our lives. We want to focus on what's going right. We want to focus on our strength. We want to focus on even about that other person, maybe. What are they doing good? What can I respect or appreciate about them? And I know that is challenging at times and difficult, brutally difficult. But what it will do is it will change the reality filter of your brain and will bring to your consciousness more of those experiences. It will make you feel more at peace again. And so I truly believe that, forgiveness even, it's not about the other person. Forgiveness is about learning to become present yourself. It's about learning that, as long as I hold onto that anger, what I'm really doing is I'm swallowing the poison, hoping that someone else will die from it. And so learning to forgive is really learning to let go and find peace again in myself.
Yeah, I think forgiveness sometimes can be hard for people in the middle of it, but for me, what's the goal that I got to without realizing it was apathy, like to not care, just to feel peaceful because it doesn't affect me anymore.
Yes. And that ultimately is the definition of freedom, right? My favorite quote comes from a Greek writer called Nikos Kazantzakis. He
Mhm.
said, I want nothing. I fear nothing. I am free.
Hmm.
True freedom is when we can let go of this constant desire or anger or fear, really, of stuff happening in the future. And the moment you drop that weight, you can return to peace.
Yeah. Well, I love the practical tips that you gave, and also just the little game that we played where you said one thing not to think of. Of course, it's the first thing I thought of in detail. And the more you said don't, I'm like, oh, now it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But then it was so simple when you said, now think of this. I completely forgot about it. And it was very easy for me to picture something else. And there were different emotions associated with it. So simple exercises like that, I would imagine anybody can do. So, Max, how can people find you and learn more about this?
So the best way is via my website, maxweigand.com, or all over social media on Max Weigand.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for coming on. And let's
Thank you.
definitely do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was a true pleasure.
Okay. Take care.
You too. Ciao, ciao.